They say every house has a story, but some whisper theirs to the ones who dare to listen. When Evelyn and Mark Tanner moved into the old home on Willow Creek Drive, they thought it was the fresh start their marriage needed. Quiet street, big yard, a deal too good to question. They should have asked why it was so cheap. The realtor said the last owners left suddenly. Boxes still in the basement. No explanation. On move-in day, Evelyn found the door. Old wood, chip paint, leading down to darkness. The air that came from below was damp and cold, as if the basement itself was breathing. She took one step down, then another. A single bulb hung from a wire, and just as she reached for the chain, she heard it. A whisper, so faint she almost missed it. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying it in her mind, the soft sound from below. At first she told herself it was nothing. Old pipes, the wind. But the next night, she heard it again. Her name, Evelyn, carried gently through the floorboards. She froze in bed. The whisper came again, closer this time, right beneath where she slept. She never told Mark, not yet. By the third night, the voices wouldn't stop. Sometimes words she couldn't make out. Sometimes laughter small and sharp, like from a child. Finally, Mark decided to check it out. He spent the whole afternoon in the basement, flashlight sweeping through cobwebs and shadows. When he came back up, he looked pale, different. He said he found nothing, but that was a lie. From then on, he started going down there more often, late at night, talking softly to someone who wasn't there. Evelyn tried to ignore it, but Mark was slipping away. He barely spoke, barely slept. Once, she woke up and found him standing at the foot of the bed, staring toward the basement door. When she whispered his name, he said only one thing. They said, "We belong here now." Then he went back downstairs. After that, the house began to change. The lights flickered, the temperature dropped, and sometimes even in daylight, Evelyn could hear whispering behind the walls. On the sixth night, a storm rolled in. Rain pounded the windows. Thunder shook the floors. Just after midnight, Evelyn woke to a slow creak. The basement door was open. She grabbed her flashlight and stepped onto the stairs. The air grew colder with every step. The whispering surrounded her now. Dozens of voices, overlapping, desperate. At the bottom, she saw Mark, standing in the corner, facing the wall.
Some gifts aren't meant to be opened. When Amelia found a Labubu doll waiting on her doorstep, Amelia thought it was cute, just another silly collectible. She had no idea. It was already alive. Amelia lived alone in a small apartment, working night shifts and sleeping through the day. One morning, she stepped outside to grab her mail and saw a small brown box sitting on the doormat. No return address. Just a single word written on the top in red ink, "Yours." Inside was a Labubu doll. Tiny, pale, smiling with glassy eyes and sharp, uneven teeth. It looked handmade. Underneath, there was a short note. "She missed you," Amelia frowned. She didn't recognize the handwriting, but she placed the doll on her bookshelf and went to bed, thinking nothing of it. At 3:13 a.m., she woke up. The room was cold, silent, and then she heard it, a whisper. At first, she thought it was the TV from a neighbor's apartment, but the sound was coming from inside her room. It was soft, like a breath pressed against her ear. "Don't leave me." She turned on the lamp. The doll was facing her now, its head tilted, its painted grin wider than before, heart pounding. Amelia grabbed it and shoved it into her closet. She told herself it was stress, or maybe sleep paralysis, but the next morning, the doll was sitting on her kitchen counter, its little hand pointing directly at the front door. That week, Amelia began hearing the whisper every night, always at 3:13 a.m. She finally set up her security camera, desperate to prove she wasn't losing her mind. When she checked the footage, her blood ran cold. The video showed her sleeping peacefully, and behind her, the doll slowly turned its head toward her bed. Frame by frame, it moved closer until it stood right beside her. The next night, she woke up again at 3:13. and this time the whisper was clear. "He's outside." She froze, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside her door, then stopped when she opened the door. No one was there. But taped to the peephole was a photo of her sleeping, and sitting below it was the doll. Amelia finally snapped. She grabbed the doll, ran outside, and threw it into the dumpster behind her building. That night, no whispers for the first time. She slept peacefully, but when she woke up the next morning, the doll was sitting on her pillow. A note lay across its lap, written in the same red ink. "You can't throw me away. You belong to me now." The whispers didn't return that night. Instead, there was laughter. Neighbors later said they heard two voices, one woman's, one childlike, giggling through the walls. Until 3:13 a.m. When police entered Amelia's apartment, she was gone, no signs of struggle. No footprints, only the Labubu sitting on her bed. Its grin freshly painted red, and if you listen closely, you can still hear it whisper, "Now she never leave me again."
It was supposed to be their dream home. Emma and Daniel had finally escaped the noise of the city, moving into a quiet old farmhouse just outside of town. The place had history built in the 1920s, creaking floors, and a large attic filled with dust and forgotten things. They didn't know yet that one of those forgotten things was waiting for them. The first week went by peacefully. They painted walls, fixed the garden, and made plans for their new life. That night, when they went to bed, a faint thud came from upstairs like something falling over. Daniel checked, but the doll was still there. Only now, it was facing the opposite direction. He shrugged it off. But when Emma woke up the next morning, the doll was on the floor closer to the attic door. Weird things started to happen. At night, Emma heard soft footsteps above them, slow and deliberate, as if someone was walking in circles. Sometimes a faint giggle echoed through the vents. Daniel installed a small camera in the attic, convinced it was mice or the wind. But the next morning, when they checked the footage, the air seemed to move as if something walked across the frame. And for just 1 second, the doll wasn't on the shelf. It was standing in the middle of the floor facing the camera. They both stared at each other, uneasy. Emma wanted to throw it away, but Daniel said it must be a glitch. Maybe the camera fell and changed the angle. That night, the noises grew louder. Around midnight, Emma heard a whisper near her ear. "Why did you move me?" She shot up, trembling. Daniel was fast asleep beside her. The next morning, she found muddy footprints on the attic stairs, small ones, like a child's. When she went up, the doll was gone. They tore through the attic, searching, until Daniel noticed it sitting quietly in the corner, holding one of Emma's necklaces in its porcelain hands. That was it. Daniel took the doll outside and buried it behind the barn. He even joked, "Let's see it move now." That night was the quietest they'd had in weeks. No creaks, no whispers, just silence, until 3:07 a.m. Emma woke to a sound coming from the back porch, a faint asterisk scratching asterisk on the door. When she looked through the window, something small and white was sitting on the steps. It was the doll, dirt covering its face, one eye cracked, and its tiny hand tapping the glass. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and opened the door, but the doll was gone. Only its muddy footprints led back, toward the attic window, the same one where they first found it. By morning, they'd packed everything and left the farmhouse. The real estate agent later called to say the movers found a small porcelain doll in the attic window again. When she sent a photo, Emma noticed something chilling. The doll was holding a wedding ring, her wedding ring, and beneath it, scratched into the wood, were the words, "Don't leave me alone again." My marriage. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. More chilling tales are waiting for you.